And welcome everybody this morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Steve Mead of Agency Mentors. And for those of you who are not familiar with Agency Mentors, we are a training, mentoring and consultancy specialist in the property sector. Over the coming weeks, we're going to be delivering a number of webinars surrounding the issues that we all have at these difficult times, and hopefully give you some sort of insight into the best way to come out of this, and you know, hopefully we can take advantage of what we hope is going to be a bounce once we're out the other side of this. Today, I'm going to be joined by Jon Davies. Jon is a good friend of mine, associate. We've known each other a long, long time. He has a wealth of experience and expertise in the corporate world. Jon, how are you doing? Good morning.
Morning, everybody. I can't see you all, but I'm assuming you're out there somewhere.
They're out.
Yeah.
They are definitely out there, mate. How are you anyway?
I'm good, thanks, Steve. Yeah, looking forward to today.
Good stuff, good stuff.
Interesting information for some of the guys, I'm sure, yeah.
I'm sure you have. I've noticed as well, you're doing a little bit more global stuff now. You've been out in China, or you're doing stuff in China. Have you actually been out there? You've got a bit of a glow about you this morning.
No, not been out there yet, Steve. To be honest with you, as much as I'd like to go, I really would like to go. It's on my bucket list, but I think
not right now.
Yeah, I think we give it a bit of time before we actually get out there. Yeah, but
great stuff.
So we're going to share.
Okay, so you got some great content for us today, guys. Just so you know the format, Jon is going to be speaking for probably about 45-50 minutes. We do intend to break halfway through for questions from the audience. You'll see you've got Q&A available to you at the bottom of your screens. We will break out, so obviously at the end there will be time for Q&As as well. I will invite you in. I will unmute you and invite you in to ask your own questions if you'd like to. I think at the end of the day, it would be nice if you can interact with Jon. So Jon, over to you, mate. Away with you, and off we go.
Okay, Steve, lovely. Thanks very much. So guys and girls, welcome. I'm going to put a presentation up on the screen in a minute just to talk us through. Steve very kindly introduced me, a little bit of an overview. I'm working at this moment in time with a number of people on a global basis in a project called the Automotive Futures Forum, where we're looking at and discussing the future of mobility with governments around the world, what that might look like. And my contacts have very kindly come back to us, and we've been talking about some of the senior leaderships in the world, what they're doing globally as a result of coronavirus. What are they doing to shape their future, lead their people and the business through the challenges that we're all facing? So I've got some contacts out in America who are having a hard time, by the way, as we know, as a result of coronavirus. I've got contacts in Australia, South Africa, Dubai, Germany, and China. Now, the interesting one in China, China's in a different phase to us. There are a few steps in front of us at this moment in time. And my contact there, Dr. Naz Shah, is one of the members of the AFA that I was alluding to, is currently consulting the Chinese government on a number of different projects around new energy and mobility solutions. You saw how China built those hospitals rapidly and quickly, very impressive inside of 14 days. They're building new towns and cities which are so far in front technology-wise compared to ours, and there's some really interesting statistics and facts coming out of there. So here's what I'd like you to do for today, if you would. I'd like you to take a look at my content, the words I'm using, the information I'm going to share with you, and then consider how you can make that work for you and your business when you get back. Now, as always, we know, don't we, leadership makes the difference. And as leaders in the business, this is an opportunity for you to reevaluate the circumstances, find out how you might reshape and reimagine your business moving forward. So a chance to move from a busy manager to a more purposeful leader, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to pop up on the screen here, Steve. I'll just share my screen now, and we'll crack on if that's okay with you guys, yeah? So here we go. Let's come down here, and we'll start our presentation today. So Steve, can you see the screen okay? Everybody okay with that?
Yeah, we're all good, Jon. It's all up there.
Good stuff. So as I said, welcome to our journey today. We're going to discuss a number of things around leadership as well today, and how leadership can step forward in the time of crisis that we're in and the adversity that we're facing. Our content, 6 key approaches to help you win in business right now. And success in the long run, I believe, will require a journey across each one of these 6 elements that I'm going to share with you. And the 6 elements are pretty straightforward. They are rapid action. That's our first phase, rapid action. I'm just going to share with you what the 6 elements are, and then we'll dive into each one of them in a bit more detail. Now, rapid action is to review the actions you should have taken already, and looking at what some of the leaders have done around the world globally in this area of rapid action. Now, I personally believe you're all through this stage. Yeah, the furloughing has already happened, the lockdown has already happened. These are just re-evaluating the steps that potentially you might have taken in your business to get to where we are at this moment in time. So it's just a re-evaluation probably. So we'll clarify what that looks like. We're also going to talk about resilience, how you can make your business more resilient and how you can protect the people within the business as well in terms of resilience. We'll investigate the return, what the return looks like when we go back into whatever this new world looks like. And I see 3 potential types of change here, and we'll be discussing change. And that change in the 3 types consists of no change at all. Absolutely nothing changes. When we go back, it's normal service. Now, if you like a lot of the people that I've shared and had conversations with, I've run this webinar now probably about 6 or 7 times. They're all hoping that they do see change. This is a big reset button we've gone through here. We're experiencing a whole host of things. It's a massive opportunity for us to change the way we look at things, and hopefully society will change for the better as well. So we're going to look and see what returning back to work might need to look like for you, your people, and your business. We'll also then take a quick look at some of the reforms that are happening around globally to consider how we can strengthen our business moving forward if there's adversity was to come our way, and how important it is that from a leadership perspective that we drive and lead change across our business. We'll also take an investigation to reimagining what our business could look like, and how the business of the future might need to be shaped in order for us to achieve more moving forward. And then reflection, we'll take some time and look back at what this pandemic, our procedures, our structures, what can we all learn from it? So let's deep dive then into the first one, which is rapid action. These are the steps that you should have already taken. And as I mentioned to you, I think the majority of you have probably already done the bulk of these things, but let's just review them and make sure that we can see how we've done. Now, rapid action requires pace, traction, and depth of action. So we're just going to review what that would have looked like. I would imagine some of you have probably formed a nerve center in your business to steer the business through the crisis. We've probably created an information hub that manages risks. We've probably set up some form of protocol about how we're going to communicate with people. And we've checked out the home working capabilities of every one of our members of staff to make sure they've got the right tools to do the job. You know, when you come on our leadership retreat, some of you may remember the 5 key steps of a great leader. The first one is to model the way, show people what good looks like. The second one is to inspire a shared vision. The third one is to challenge the process. But the fourth one, which is this one I want to talk about, is enable others to act. Now, in the business, you would have carried out a whole host of risk, providing people with the right tools and equipment to work from the premises at the right level. But what's their home working capabilities? That's something that the great leaders around the world have considered. The other one is mission number 2. The good leaders that have gone out there and gone through the rapid action phase, they've taken steps to protect their employees. They've made their health paramount. These are decisions that have already been made. Yes, we've furloughed people, but the most important one, have you in your business identified at-risk employees? Because that's something we need to consider. Who are those that might have a mental weakness, might be struggling with well-being? How have you, as the leader, identified those at-risk employees that are under your care? The next one is mission 3. The businesses around the world have looked at the supply chains and looked at the risks that they might be exposed to as a result of other businesses underperforming or not being at full capacity, and therefore not being able to serve their business at the right levels. So this is an important one to consider. I'm sure you've already done this, but you've looked at how you've who's providing to you, and can they deliver at the right level. So some of the activities are being scaled down, as we can see. You probably, like most people, you've adjusted your marketing spend and looked at your budgets and your sales and taken steps to avoid the risks in declining sales. Challenging one for you guys in estate agency world. Things might be very difficult there. I appreciate that. But globally, they're looking at more solutions. Now, in terms of adjusting your marketing spend and mitigating risks, I do know of some businesses where there is a live chat often running all the time with for customers to access. So there's a whole host of things there. Most important one that people have done, of course, is they've taken the steps financially to improve liquidity on cash, keeping the cash in the business. They've cancelled any agreements, direct debits, and they reduced the cost spend tower. So if they are open on a global basis, every single spend has to come in through that one tower across all of the branches, across all of the business. So that's the rapid action phase, which I'm sure most of you have gone through. In this example here, we know, don't we, cash is king for us, without a doubt. Let's take a look at phase 2, which is resilience. And before we do that, I want to step into this model here called VUCA. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the model of VUCA, but it stemmed from the US Army, who in the 90s recognized that in most of the theaters of war, there was a complexity, a volatility, an ambiguity, and an uncertainty about what was coming their way. And if you think about the coronavirus, I'll put this in here because that's exactly where we are. Everything around us is complex. We don't know how the interdependencies of everything work at this moment in time. The rate and pace of change is volatile. As we know, there is definitely, without a doubt, ambiguity. And we're uncertain about what the future looks like. So this is an important one. If you look at the axis on the side then, you can see this is how well we can predict the outcome of our actions. Well, I don't think we can. And how much do we know about the situation we're finding ourselves in? We don't. It's only when it's being revealed by the government as to when lockdown ends and when we can reopen again. So we're not in control as a leader in terms of this situation in this area. Now, where this gets interesting is what can you control when you think about. We're certainly finding that the environment is managing us at this moment in time. If we think about leadership, I think it's fair to say whilst the government might have made some wrong decisions or some slow decisions, I think in terms of communication with us, and leadership, as we know, is all about communication, those 5 o'clock briefings, I think, have been a very positive thing for us all. But we're still missing a lot of detail to help us move our business forward. But here's where we need to step in from a leadership perspective. The things we can't influence and control on the left-hand side, but what we can control is these things. We can start to craft our vision of our business, our vision of our future world. We can help our employees understand what our vision and our strategy might now look like in order to bring them the clarity that they need. Now, always remember, in leadership, when there's lack of clarity, the pace and the traction in the business slows down. The pace and the traction in the strategy slows down, which then prevents speed and pace towards the vision that we're trying to achieve. So communication and clarity is going to be vitally important moving forward. We're going to talk some more about that. And if we can put those 3 things on the right-hand side into place fairly quickly, understanding what our vision of our business now looks like, giving people that clarity, we can get the agility we need to compete from the off in this new world, whatever that new world looks like. And just talking on that new world, we've said three different types of position. Absolutely no change at all, slight change, or complete and utter revamping of business as we know it. And business as normal is now gone. So there's some bits and pieces there we can do. I think it, first of all, be useful to remind us of what's happened in the past, yeah? When we think about resilience. And resilience is actions to protect our business and our people moving forward. And sometimes it takes looking backwards into some of the things that we've experienced before. You know, around the world in some industries and businesses, they have experienced these virus-related shutdowns before. They've experienced disasters and economic pressures. And past experiences, I think, will provide us with valuable insights at this stage. But if we remind ourselves of the word resilience, it means the ability to recover from or adjust easily to a misfortune or change. And if we were to Google it, it says in Google, able to withstand or recover quickly from difficult conditions. So it's important that we look at resilience and how we create a resilient business moving forward. It's also fair to say that with adversity comes opportunity, and some companies flourish during these hard times. But typically some of those who have took significant action at the outset. The experience of the past shows that the resilient companies, which is defined as those in the top quartile of revenue share within their sectors, they took several key steps in order to allow themselves to become resilient. And I wanted to share some of those strategies that they implemented to stay resilient as a business. Now, we've heard of the word bounce back ability. So let's just think about some of the things that they've done in the past when they've been in adversity, been in those pandemic situations, in order to stay resilient as a business. So action one, the first thing they did was move very, very quickly to address their cash flows, their cash shortage. And if they needed funding, they got that funding into place quickly and promptly. So how are you doing on that? If you're in a situation where you need some funding, how are you getting it? Are you on top of that? Because without cash, we can't function, as we know. And interesting enough, in a tough time, they still managed to sustain organic revenue growth and outperformed in their market in the recovery phase of their market. And there's a reason for that, as I'll share in a minute. They moved harder, faster, quicker. They got more available smaller market through their actions. And they did that because they invested 15 times more than other companies during the downturn. And when that market came back, they acquired 12% more of it, which is quite interesting. Now, I've got a pal of mine who runs a very big Mercedes-Benz truck business, and they're a transport business. And as you can imagine, they're incredibly busy at this moment in time. And in fact, whilst they've got a market, he's actually captured, there are, I believe, something like 35 outlets around the UK. He's captured more of the market than all the other locations put together at this moment in time, because he's made himself highly visible. Now, cutting and culling and protecting the financials is important, but not to the end that the business suffocates and cannot function of itself. Yeah. So I know some of you are probably thinking, well, you know, do we want to spend our money? But I can assure you, we've got to get match fit ready to come out of this the other side. Now, like all other crises, there will be an end. And when the next level of business arises, a resilient business will take more of it for sure, without a doubt, compared with non-resilient companies. Now, resilient businesses increased their revenues by 30% and reduced their operating costs significantly to survive the pandemics that they faced when they came around the world the first time around. They identified some key risks, both internally and externally, and developed a range of scenarios to predict future outcomes. And I wanted to share with you some of the things that they did, some of the steps that they've taken. They created end-to-end plans. In other words, they revised their strategies. They looked at their business and said, can my business recover if business as normal represents 100%? Is my business still able to function financially if it's only operating to 50% of what we would deem to be normal? They then looked at the markings as 70% and 90%. And some of them actually looked at 110%. And let me explain why that one might be an important one. So these businesses have created strategies around only being able to function at 50% of what normal was. to being able to function at 70% of what normal was and at 90%. Now, the 110% one is an interesting one. I need to get my eyes tested. I need to get some new glasses. And I've realized this. This 6 weeks has taught me that I definitely need to get my glasses sorted. My brother-in-law is managing director of Specsavers. They're predicting that they've asked their businesses to write strategies around 110% because they see a massive flow of customers into their stores looking to buy. Now, the reason why this is important, because if business goes back to 110%, it may be that because of the pace that our people are coming back into the workplace, they're not fully functional. Our processes and our systems aren't capable to manage the higher level of volume that could come our way. So this might be happening in your world. You might just need to think, how are you going to cope if all of a sudden business is not 100%, but it's 120%, it's 130%? How would your people, your strategies, your process cope? Would they be robust enough to manage that extra input of people into the business? Another one that the great leaders took, they identified the key risks and they took actions to look at various things in the business to predict future outcomes. Another one, they stress tested the profit and loss, the balance sheets and the cash flow forecasts, and then created these financial interventions to make sure that they were robust enough and strong enough. Another action that the guys out there and gals have taken is they set up cash war rooms, implemented tighter spending controls. You know, this is the time where the strength of our financial directors should show up. If we've got a strong financial director or strong accountants, they should be showing up now and really sharing with us as business leaders the financial picture of our business, the overview of our business. So a couple of things I wanted to share with you here. You know, if you've got an external accountancy firm, how are they advising you? Have they been in touch with you? Are they showing you their brilliance? Are they helping you make those financial decisions based on your own personal circumstances and the strength of your business? Because in our past podcasts and webinars that I've carried out, I'm hearing some awful stories where the accountants have gone dark. What I mean by that, they've disappeared off the face of the earth. They're not there to support, they're not helping. So the strength of the financial directors in your business is important at this stage because they're the ones who are going to advise us, and the strength of our accountants. You know, if you're not getting this, you might want to review who you're working with, because any partnership should be a two-way approach, and these people should be strengthening our business by giving us their financial advice in this instance. And finally, the best companies out there, they built resiliency dashboards that help them understand where they were, what is working in that business, and what's not working on, and are they on track. So that's some of the things that the actions that some of the guys around the on a global scale have put together. But there is one other important component here when we think about resilience, and that is how resilient are our people. The information might be factual, useful and interesting, but those businesses that focused on the people also came back faster, quicker and stronger. They help people become resilient too. You know, they set up mindfulness programs to help reduce anxiety and worry in their staff. So I just want to ask you guys and gals out there at this moment in time, how have you gone about doing that? Not have you done it, how have you gone about it? Because that needs to be in place. Testing the temperature of the people in our business. You know, a lot of people are stressed, anxious, concerned about where they go and what happens in the future. And you as the leader are the catalyst to removing that anxiety and that stress that they have by communicating with them, keeping in contact. I'm going to talk some more on that in a minute. So the good leaders have put strong, robust systems and support systems in place and have checked in with their teams on a regular basis to help eliminate the stress that they're going through. I've also put some fun stuff in place as well. You know, connecting people socially is really, really important. You know, I know of a leader who is currently playing bingo across a 60-strong team with the balls having a random task. For example, someone who's jet washed their patio. Also know another leader that has personally picked the phone up over the last week to 222 people that he employs and spoken to them one-on-one. How are you? What help do you need from me? What have you got going on? They've checked in with absolutely everybody. So the question is back to you now then. How are you doing in that area? Have you checked the well-being? Are you providing the support mechanisms? And are you communicating as your leadership to people? To help you, one of our partners has developed a 17-strong questionnaire, which is totally free of charge, and I can give you access to that. So you can check in with your people just to test their well-being. And if you want to get in touch with Steve, I'll forward that in a PDF to you, Steve, so that you can share it, or I'll formulate the link. And those results that we've been working with in the past will allow you to see those people out there who might be feeling a little bit fragile as we speak at this moment in time. So let's move from that one into section 3, action to consider when going back to work. This is an interesting one, this one, because restarting production around the world in the industry, getting back to opening branches, getting machines reworking, rebuilding culture, bringing the energy back into the business. Do you know what? That can actually be more challenging than shutting the business down. It's going to require a very thoughtful approach to how you revive your business, how you revive the people in it, and how you revive that supply chain. Yeah. And I think another good place to look is looking at China again, because they're those couple of steps in front of us, as I've alluded. So when we consider worker safety, the factories there are back up to speed, and they've taken special steps to resume their operations, and the small to medium businesses are doing the same. And I just wanted to share with you some of the steps that they've taken, because as I alluded, they're a couple of places in front of us at this moment in time. So they've come back with a gradual capacity. For example, in some of the factories, they brought in 20% of the workers to return back to work every 2 weeks. They've started looking at the process of what needs to come in first. The second thing that they've done is they've continued at an incredibly high level to monitor the health of every single workers, you know, with people getting checked in and getting checked out, testing in, testing out, in order to make sure that they're healthy, so as not to bring the virus back into the business. And obviously, as I mentioned before, there's well-being programs that they've put in place as well. So they're testing for daily body temperatures and things like that, so that the virus can't spread quickly. An interesting one here you might want to consider is the workspaces are being redesigned. In some factories, in some premises, the lifts have been rendered out of action because the virus can get contained in the lift. Extra ventilation put in, well-spaced offices, well-spaced desks now, so that workers aren't on top of each other, not stationed face-to-face with each other. An important one for you guys, I would imagine, when you open your doors as well, is how much distance you're going to put in place between one customer and the next customer, between one employee and the next employee, because that would demonstrate to your team that you've considered what social distancing is going to look like in your business moving forward. So the next one is a very interesting one, and again, you might want to consider this. In the factories and the offices around the world, they've guarded against single point failure in any department. So let me explain what I mean by that. Workers of the same type do no longer work in the same department. There was a concern, if you could imagine that, you know, you might have one department here with 10 or 15 people in it. If one person in that department catches the virus, then it could be spread to everybody in that department. And all of a sudden, the whole of the business can't function because there is nobody capable of running the tasks, working the machinery, operating the passcodes into the systems, using them, whatever the tasks are in that business. So you might want to consider how you prevent individual department failure across your business. And that could be something that could be quite important. Now, given the fact that most of you aren't running some form of giant industrial plant, or you're not ramping up a factory in a coordinated way that's mission critical, what I thought I'd do is just break this down a little bit more, and let's talk about what that actually means in your business, as it were. And we've got 4 stages we're going to look at. We're going to look at planning, promotion, partnerships, and stabilizing the return back into the business. So when we talk about the planning stage of your return, this is a great opportunity for you to review all your systems and processes. And I really want to emphasize something very, very heavily here, and that's this. We, in some ways, have been given a gift. We've been given the opportunity to reflect and look at what is and isn't working in our business. Somebody's hit the reset button, and we've got a chance to start again. So this is the chance for us to update new systems, update new processes, set new standards, redo our strategy, look at how we need to change. So please, 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 don't miss the opportunity that we've been given here. Yeah. I think this is it hopefully will only ever be a one-off chance for us. We don't want this coming back to us in 2 or 3 years' time. So this is a really great opportunity to raise all of these critical business areas in our business where we might have seen in the past some form of underperformance, lack of functionality, a dysfunctional system, a dysfunctional process. This is a chance to review it. And from a leadership perspective, please don't miss this opportunity. This is a massive, massive opportunity to reconsider, restructure, and reinvent. Now, when we think about promotion, we're not just going to open the doors, are we, and say, right, come on in, we're back to work at 9 o'clock on the 22nd. We've got to be more strategic than that. It will need us to provide absolute clarity to all our stakeholders, everybody who's been furloughed. When are we going to open? How are we going to look? What are we going to do differently? And we need to think about how we're going to promote that to us. Now, we don't, going back to the VUCA environment, we don't know what this new world looks like. We could see incredible change. And that would need to be clarified to everybody when they come back into the business so that they can adapt to it. You may well, through that planning stage, have identified that some of your departments cannot be operationally effectively for some weeks. So you're going to probably need to share that. You're going to need clarity to all your partners as well. You know, if you've got partnerships out there, you need to look at your global supplier network to ensure their readiness to support you and your business at the right level. You know, for example, if you manufacture widgets, as an example, and a major component of widget is Bolt X, but Bolt X as a manufacturer couldn't survive the period financially and have gone out of business, then, you know, there's an impact to you on your capability and your ability to get results. Now, you're not manufacturing widgets, as we know, but it's still also a good opportunity to look at all your partnerships to check the strength, the capability. Can your partners that you rely on perform at the highest of levels? So I would encourage you to seek reassurance from all your partners that you're being supported at the right level from the get-go. And you might want to make some new partnerships, clearly. So clarity to our clients is going to be important as well. Being able to communicate through the omni-channels that we have available to us in our marketing departments, what opening means. You know, if I walk into Specsavers as an example, I'm expecting to get a pair of glasses, but if the fella who's testing me isn't available for another 2 weeks because they're not ramped up, I'm going to be pretty annoyed about that. So clarity to our clients about what we're functionally capable of functioning at and at what levels and when will also need to be considered moving forward. Now, the stabilization stage is an interesting one. We've done partnerships, so monitor your supply network. RA ready to support you. My apologies. We're a bit in front of that one already. So I'll move into stabilization. Yeah. And one of the things you're going to need to do for returning back into the business to make sure you've got everybody match fit again, getting the employees familiar with what that new normal looks like. If you've revised your strategy, if you've adjusted your processes, then getting the team match fit will be massively important. Now, if it were me personally, I would consider the following. If at the end of the coronavirus, the end of furloughing, it looks like it's a 6-week period or an 8-week period, whatever it might be, another 2 to 3 days, if you've got that far, another 2 to 3 days at this stage isn't really going to make a difference. I personally would be doing some intensive training. You can do it internally. I'll be doing some intensive training on the very basics again, so that you're getting people's mindset in the game. If you think about it, you know, these people, some of them have been out of work for 6 to 8 weeks, might not have got engaged mentally into their job descriptions, not engaged with developing themselves, and might have just, you know, taken time to reflect. So almost coming back in and getting them match fit again is going to be critical to the success moving forward, and the speed and the agility that we alluded to earlier. You know what it's like when you have somebody go on a holiday. When they come back off their holiday, it takes 3 to 5 days, doesn't it, for them to get their head into the gear. Now imagine the whole business coming back as if they've just come back off holiday. You know, you're going to be slow, it's going to be clunky, things aren't going to work properly. So I really encourage you to spend some time doing some deep dive intensive training on the new systems, the processes, the basics. And, you know, talking about the basics, those basics may well have fundamentally changed. So this now gives us a fantastic opportunity to reissue and redefine our job descriptions. You know, this is a chance for you to invest in your human capital, isn't it? It may be that the world, whatever it looks like, now has and includes new tasks, new responsibilities that simply didn't exist before. And this is another opportunity for you here to reissue, redefine those job descriptions. You know, when I talk to most businesses, one of the key things I see about when I'm looking in this area of job descriptions is most of them are dysfunctional. They're not really representing the culture, the expectation in the business at the level that they should be. And as a consequence, holding people accountable, dealing with underperformance, it kind of becomes a challenge, because we get people say to us, well, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. That's not in my job description. No one's told me I've got to, or shown me I've got to do it that way. So this is a really fantastic opportunity for you here to go back and to revisit what that looks like. And that staggered approach to coming back into the workplace will be a useful mechanism for you, because it will allow you to find any pinch points, any challenges before you step up. The other thing to consider when you come back in the business, as we've already mentioned, talking about employees and that 110% strategy. If there is high demand, you have to get the people warmed up and match fit, because you might not have enough people to cover the volume of customers coming your way effectively if you don't spend time looking at those basic things. So we're looking for teams to be able to deliver performance from the get-go that have got themselves warmed up. And I would declare war on underperformance before ramping up. Let's have a quick look. One thing I would say to you, put a strategy into place about how you intend to come back. Because if you hit the ground flat out, you have the potential to break people. So be very, very, very careful how you manage this return stage. Staging it, staggering it, checking the pinch points, checking in with people. I think that would be a useful mechanism for you moving forward. Now, moving forward, we'll be discussing how change works from a leadership perspective and looking at the psychological effect it has on people. So I think, Steve, we've come to sort of the end of section 3 here.
Yeah.
And I'm conscious I've thrown quite a lot out at you. Before we move into reform and things that we can learn and look and discover, and that reimagination of our business, is there any questions anybody's got? Anybody want to ask anything? Steve, you're in.
There's okay. So if you have got a question for Jon, you can utilise the Q&A at the bottom of your page. I think there's also the possibility you can just click on a hand. Your hand will come up, and I'll allow you to interact with Jon. But I have got a question from Neil Hyde at Michael Jones. Neil, I'm going to unmute you so that you can talk directly to Jon. Neil, are you there?
Looks like his microphone is still muted my end, Steve, at the moment, from what I can see.
Really? Okay. Neil, are you coming in? Not receiving you? Okay, so Neil, it was good enough to send the question through anyway. So, having been, let me just see, unmute. Neil, are you there? Okay, we're obviously going to have to sharpen up on this side of things.
Okay.
Right. So Neil's question was, having been an agent, and it is property specific. So it's something that maybe I can help with as well. But having been an agent for 30 years, I believe that the way agents operate will change forever, which is certainly the general consensus within the industry. With less offices and staff, what should we be doing now to get ourselves ready for post-lockdown?
Well, we've shared some things in terms of coming back to return. I think the most important thing about this is strategy, isn't it? It's you can be a follower or you can be a leader. Now is the time to innovate, get your team together, and probably ask some questions. And I think our section coming up, Steve, around reimagining what our business might look like, might help Neil with some of those key things there, some key areas around reimagining what his business should be looking like moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, certainly there's sorry, Jon, across you.
I was going to say, Steve, we're used to working from home. I think there'll be a lot of changes in the way that business functions. I for one might be driving a long journey to go to a meeting if I don't need to, because this tool here has already demonstrated that we can have clear, concise communication with people. So why would we want to do that? And that might be the way our functionality goes. I can share with you from an automotive perspective, interesting enough, they've gone completely online. There is a complete end-to-end system now available where you can select a car, apply for finance, get your car part exchange valued, sign the documentation, and you do not need to go into an automotive dealer anymore. So they're going through some fundamental change in automotive world, and those changes are happening around us in all industries. The speed of change is phenomenal. I think I'm calling it the velocity stage in our careers. What I mean by that, the speed of change is phenomenal. Okay. So second guessing that one is a difficult one to predict.
I think it's a case of second guessing, but I mean, it's a good point that Neil brings up. I mean, certainly all the agents that we're talking to at the moment are looking at their internal efficiencies. It's unfortunate that of all the people that have been made redundant and have fallen foul of what's gone on and lost their jobs, unfortunately, I don't think definitely there's not going to be the number of positions available. That there's more candidates out there than are going to be positions for sure. So efficiencies and that sort of side of things, we're going to lose a lot of people from the industry, unfortunately, but the best people will be retained. And we were discussing this the other day on the ICG webinar, and people were saying, "Oh, is it the end of the high street agents?" It's certainly not. I mean, Richard Powell, who runs Ryder and Dutton up in the north of England, they've got 26 offices, and he said, there's no way they're looking at any sort of wholesale closure of offices without a doubt. It's an industry where everyone can survive alongside each other. I just think it's efficiencies that have to be looked at. And in answer to Neil's question, even Neil Works is the MD of a fantastic business, Michael Jones, down on the south coast, and they've got a great business, and they will just, they will look at things pragmatically, proactively, and decide what to do moving forward. But yeah, it's tough times, and it's difficult. But
I think
yeah, so
one, Steve. Sorry, Steve. On this point, I think an interesting one. You know, who best to ask? It's our customers, isn't it? You know, at this stage, I think I'll be asking our customers, how can we best serve you? And one thing for me, I picked up, you know, like I've said before, long time ago, if you're going to outperform in your market share, you've got to outserve, haven't you? Peter made that the other day as well when I was watching the webcast. But you know, if you're going to outperform in your industry, you've got to outserve. So you guys need to work out what outserving looks like to start with, from a behavioural point of view. And you know, and getting rid of some of the old stinking thinking and the perceptions of the estate agency. You know, you know, I've been working with you guys for a number of years now, but we're still hearing horrific stories, aren't we? Of, you know, friends and people who go into estate agencies and don't get called back. You know, and come on, guys, how can that still be? It's 2020. How can that still be happening? You know, if we're not customer centric.
And that's the phrase, it's customer centric. I think moving forward, that is what everyone has realised. You know, I mean, as you quite rightly said, this has given us a great opportunity to look at our businesses and just to see how we can move them forward the right way. There's going to be a new normal. We keep hearing it. It's the old catchphrase at the moment. But yeah, listen, it's exciting times ahead. I think you know, it's unfortunate a lot of people have lost their positions, which is, you know, as I say, it's you know, we feel for them. But yeah, it's given us an opportunity to look at efficiencies and moving forward. I'm sure you know, all the great businesses will do so.
Yeah, like we said. Okay, shall we take a look at the next stage, Steve?
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, go on, crack on.
Yeah. Okay, so we're now moving into our reform stage and thinking about actions that drive change in a business. And as we've already mentioned, you know, change from a leadership perspective is a must. We need to evolve. That's how we grow. And there's going to be a whole host of change. And when we think about change, some of it will be totally and utterly unaware of. It won't be on our radar. It won't be in our thinking. And yet some things will be blatantly obvious. So I'd like to talk to you about change from an employee personality perspective. And then we'll move into reimagine and reflecting. So there's a great quote that I use in our leadership retreats when we think about change. And by the way, change has a significant psychological effect on everybody. And the quote is this: change has a considerable psychological impact on the human mind. To the fearful, it is threatening because things may get worse. To the hopeful, it's encouraging because things could get better. And to the confident, it's inspiring because there's a challenge that exists to make things better. And most people do their best work when they're challenged. So from a leadership perspective, this is very much about involving our team in understanding how we create together what that future world might look like, considering our customers. And looking for where value is in our business and where value will be moving forward. So you might want to consider where some of your people sit in this in order to best lead them through the inevitable changes that will need to come in our business so that they feel more comfortable. So we'll take a quick look at some of these things, because change is uncomfortable for people. And, you know, some of the questions you might have to look at your team and make some tough questions. Are the people that I've currently got in my business truly capable of thriving and surviving in the new world, whatever that new world looks like? Are they capable of changing? Are they willing enough to want to personally change and evolve? And who in your business might resist change? Because if you've got people who resist change, then they'll be hanging on to old methods, old approaches, and old mindsets, which could prohibit the speed and the agility in your business. So you may find that some people are no longer capable of fitting into that new future role that's needed to drive the business through the new world and to the next level. I think this crisis may well bring a natural cull to some dead wood in your business. It may be time to let go of those people who aren't at this moment in time 100% committed. They aren't aligned. They don't appear creative. They're not living your values. They're not good team players. This might be the time to gently kiss them from the business. Remember what we said earlier. This is a massive opportunity, a massive chance to raise our game. And here's what I mean by that. If you were to look around your business right now, you might see some areas that if you had a magic wand, you would wave it towards hoping things would change and improve. And if you think about those areas, they're the areas that we now have to step into, aren't they? We now need to stop doing things that don't work, fix things that might appear broken or clunky, mend areas that that just don't feel right to us. Now's the time to reform all the things in your business that are broken, malfunctioning, underperforming, and just a waste of effort. It's now the time to create those new strategies and to implement them. So now is the time to define what world-class looks like moving forward as well. Like I said before, if you want to outperform, you're going to need to outserve. So let's look and see how you can raise the levels, raise accountability, raise standards, and help people towards those new levels of performance. Make sure you don't miss this opportunity. It's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, I hope, anyway. Now, reform, change, can mean a new beginning as well. So from a personality point of view, when considering change, I thought I'd share with you very quickly how each of the personality types reacts to change. It would be useful for you just to consider where you can put some of your team inside of these areas. And if you talk to Steve, we've got a tool, haven't we, which will help people understand their personalities in their team, and it's available through Steve to talk to Steve even.
Don't stalk me, just talk to me, Jon.
Knowing where they sit will help you understand how to best lead them, how to best manage them, but more importantly, how to position change. So we're going to look at that to start with. So if we think about the people down here who demonstrate more of an introversion, the steady, supportive type of people, the introverted people, these amiable characters here, I've got to tell you, will be the hardest people to lead through change. Yeah. They'll fight tooth and nail to hang on it because change makes them feel uncomfortable. It's their number one fear is change. So if you're going to lead these people through change, you're going to require small steps, not radical change. You're going to have to walk side by side. You're going to have to clarify how they benefit from it. And that's our amiable types. The next type is I would say the more analytical type, if you like. Those who are more detailed, exacting, precise, that kind of thing. In order to lead them through change, they will want you to be able to articulate your plan with clarity in detail. So how have you considered all the angles of the change? They'll want to know that you've got a robust plan and can evidence that you've considered all the risks involved in the change. And if you do that, they'll come with you on that journey of change, without a doubt. The more extroverted people, the creative types, those enthusiastics, those high energies, they're going to start, when we think about change, with bags of energy, loads of great ideas. But when we think about change in a nutshell in these areas, these people can end up running out of energy and become overwhelmed by the sense of change that's going on in the business. So don't pass on too much change. Again, keep it small. Give them the big picture. Our more dominant personality, a more extroverted personality, the ones that maybe some of us find a little bit challenging to manage some of the times, they'll go off all guns blazing, but usually without any plan of action. So if you've got this dominant person in your team, get them to present a plan of change to you. Listen, I could talk to you about change all day long, but we could do another session around change for sure. Reform in many areas will be necessary, but look for the golden opportunities because they'll appear. Now, we spoke earlier about connecting in with our people, connecting in with our people. And this slide just demonstrates some of the things that you should consider in those areas of personality. You know, if those red energies, that they are motivated by a sense of achievement, so challenge them to create actions and get them to feed back to you what they've achieved while being at home. The yellows and the introverted and the greens, they're looking for connectivity, aren't they? So book those virtual coffee mornings on Zoom. Stay close to them. And these are some of the things you can do as a leader to connect with them. One thing I would share with you, though, just be mindful of all the human emotions attached to change, because there is a significant emotional attachment to any change that you bring into the business. So be mindful of that before you do it. Let's take a look at section number 5 then, which is reimagining our business. Actions that you can take that will keep you relevant in the workplace moving forward. Now, the coronavirus could fundamentally shift how people live, how they work, and how they use technology. We're already starting to see some of that. Advanced industries will probably see a shift in the preferences of the workers, and they'll start to see how that change can be implemented. The organisations that can reinvent themselves will emerge much stronger if they can articulate that reinvention in such a way that it impacts with the customers. And if you can do that, you'll be in a stronger position than you would have been in pre-COVID, to be fair. For many businesses, the crisis has led to a reimagination in their businesses in many areas. So I'm going to share with you the things that need to be on your radar if you're thinking of reimagining. There's a lot of creativity come out of this reimagination as well. And as I've said before, following adversity, there's always opportunity. And the creative people amongst you will be the ones that now start to reshape and design what a future estate agency will look like, a lettings agency will be. The first thing to consider is your marketing, isn't it? Your go-to marketing approach. Don't go dark, don't disappear, be seen. What marketing approaches are you going to need to deploy in this new world moving forward is what some of the things you probably need to consider, and more importantly, what platform will be capable of delivering it for you. We'll probably see a shift into more e-commerce platforms, and you'll probably need to enhance your digital capabilities. And you know, I know some of the team members in the ICG are right on top of the digital side of your businesses, aren't they? And they're there to support you. You'll probably see more people adapting to remote or virtual ways of working, more business being done from home, that kind of thing. Look how we've all embraced Zoom and virtual training. Another thing that you're probably going to need to consider, and this is a really interesting one and a very, very important point, is you're probably going to need to realign how your customer journey works and place a greater emphasis on new models that help to overcome consumer reluctance about purchases that involve a greater commitment. We've all been put under an awful lot of financial strain out there in the marketplace there, and some people might be reluctant to spend big as a result of their financial fears. They're not necessarily tightening their purse strings, but they're locking their purse away. So you're going to probably have to think about how you might reapproach that journey, what that could look like to engage more buyers into the sector. Now, we don't know what this is going to look like, but certainly I would be looking at my customer journey in order to eradicate fear and build trust. With that in mind, you might want to reconsider how you reward people, looking at your pay structure as well, because when we think about some of the pay structures I see out in businesses today, in all industries, sometimes they don't reward the right behaviors. You know, what behaviors are going to deliver your new vision? And if you think about it from a sales perspective, some of the pay plans don't reward ethical trading in some ways. Now, that might not be applicable to you guys, but salespeople get very much about the deal now. What are we going to do now? Because they're chasing that pay plan, aren't they? So you might want to look at how you incentivize how you target, how you reward, and how your pay plan allows a team functionality attached to it. We can talk more on that another time. The other thing that we'll probably see in this new world as we reimagine our business, and again for you guys to think about, is how you can seek cooperation and collaboration and alliances with frenemies. Working together to promote technology while reducing the financial burdens, things like that. Who can you partner with that can add more impact into your business but help reduce the financial side of things? I think quite a few people are looking at friendships and partnerships today in order to get that collaboration and consistency. And again, ICG is a good example of that. The other thing that we're seeing, and you might want to put on your radar, is what does the new workplace look like? Yeah. More and more leaders, more and more companies are adding flexible working hours, so workers can care for their children and elder families in the future. This is a major reset button. We've been on this hamster wheel, haven't we? And what is important to us is being reevaluated considerably. And some of your team may struggle to bounce back because they might not see some of this as important as it used to be for them. Their values have kicked in and shared different perceptions on life. This is not a return to business as normal. So you're going to need to think about how we can look at that and how we help people back into the workplace and how we work functionally as well. We all remember the shelves when this pandemic first started. What it has revealed is the global dependencies and the deficiencies in a lot of the supply chains. And many companies have shown a lack of contingency planning, a lack of structure, dysfunctional processes, no risk analysis. And you know what, as you move through what the new world looks like, there's still a high level of uncertainty about the pandemic. Can it come back? So out in the big world, the supply chain leaders are placing more emphasis on forecasting efforts in order to make sure we've got the right products in the right place at the right times to improve the global ramp ups and improve reaction times. So going forward, we expect to see a more localized delivery service so that, and the key words that came out of this for me were localized and community. And I think that for you guys is something I'd be looking at. How do we work more locally? How do we work in our community more effectively? Which I'm sure you've been doing anyway. We expect companies will adopt more digital and analytical tools in order to understand the strength of their businesses. But whatever our new world looks like, we're sure to see reimagination in many areas, especially in your sector. For some of you, you'll be at the forefront of that change, shaping it, driving it. For others, I have to tell you, you'll be beautifully equipped for a world that no longer exists. And hopefully you won't be the latter. Leading innovation and change is a fundamental skill of a great leader. Challenging those processes, enabling people to act, encouraging the heart, modeling the way, and inspiring a shared vision are the 5 attributes that should be right at the forefront of your mind at this stage. But involve your wider team. Now, interesting enough, when we talk about innovation and reimagination, I don't know if you're familiar, Amazon, as we know, are working on this 1-hour delivery, this drone delivery stuff in the background. That's happening. In Japan, there are minimal car showrooms in Japan, and most of the sales are done through door knocking by a salesman who walks around, believe it or not. Found that one very strange. But everywhere around the world globally, everybody is reimagining what the business now needs to look like. So my question to you is, what does your business need to look like? What is your model going to look like? How are you going to turn it into a strategy? And how are you going to bring that strategy to the marketplace? So our final section is reflection. Great leaders always seek learning opportunities. And I mentioned in another section that lessons were learned from other virus, pandemics, disasters and crises that took place around the world in years gone by. So this reflection phase offers you, your team, a chance to consider how well you reacted, how well you responded, and how robust your processes were in the crisis that we've experienced. Whilst we're not through it, I'm sure there's still some lessons there for us to learn. And for example, how good were your decision-making strategies? Yeah, did you react quick enough when the pandemic first came out? How did you gather information around it? How did you dive into that information in order to understand what steps were needed to take in your business? Was it strong enough? Was it quick enough? Was it fast enough? How did you share knowledge across your team once you found out what was going on? How did you share it? You know, one of the biggest things I see is in leadership, and bear in mind, of course, I'm into this stuff now for 20 years and in different industries. The thing that makes most business dysfunctional is communication. The ability to communicate, the ability to share knowledge quick enough. There's too many businesses operate a silo mentality, a domain mentality, a protection of my area. And you have that in my experiences for some of the businesses I've worked with. There is a very, very clear, here's sales, here's lettings. Yeah. If you're going to reinvent yourselves, I'd encourage you to reinvent how you're going to break down those silos as well. How you can come together, how you can become more dependent on each other in order to improve. So there's lessons there, I'm sure, around that. The next thing you might want to consider and reflect on is how good have you been at reassuring your staff? How good have you been as a leader in connecting with your people, checking in with your people? Have you done it weekly? Have you done it daily? What was the mechanism, the process to check in on the well-being of everybody that you've led? You know, I know one leader who personally wrote a card to 320 of his staff, assuring them that he would personally look after them as he could. And you can imagine the credibility he's built in that. And, you know, as a leader, credibility is something that takes years to build and seconds to lose. And if you reflect back on this crisis, look at the credibility of Mike Ashley, who has made some horrendous leadership decisions. Look at the credibility of the guy from Witherspoons, Tim something, I can't remember his name now, who sent all their people into work and then changed their mind in an instant. Now, you could say they changed their mind. Yeah, great, they changed their mind. They allowed people back into the business to go back home. But the damage is already done. And that credibility is very difficult to get back. So how did you communicate with your team? How did you furlough people? How did you communicate the process of furloughing? You know, I'd strongly recommend that you reflect back on all your actions and ask yourself, you know, what went well in our business? What would you find tricky, difficult, or challenging in our business? And God forbid, if something like this comes our way again, what would we need to do differently? Yeah, what would we need to do differently? And, you know, as a leader, your most powerful tools are the questions you ask. So question up. And what I mean by that is ask higher quality questions of yourself and your people. What is it that we need to change? How can we reinvent ourselves? What does our business need to look like? And get those questions out there. Question is your main tool as a leader. Question everything, challenge everything. So thinking more strategically is going to be a skill that I'm sure you'll find is worth developing. Reflect back on what you've learned, because this will end and there will be lessons. And life presents us every day lessons to learn from. And it's a wise man and woman that goes in and finds what we're trying to be taught here. Because if we don't learn from those lessons, they're delivered at a harder level next time round. So thinking strategically, And strategic thinking, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the term, is just thinking multiple moves in advance. You know, what is our business? Where's it heading? What does it look like? And how can we stay apace of it, of all that change that's happening with us? So guys and girls, thank you very much for listening. Hopefully, there's one or two bits and pieces there that you feel that you can reflect on. Remember what I said to you right at the very start. I'm just a messenger of content here. Your goal now is to say, right, taking that content, how do we bring that into your business? If you need more help in designing strategy, then Steve, myself, anybody else involved can help you. If there's any questions or anything, we'll go back to Steve. So thanks for the opportunity, Steve, as always. Much obliged.
No, absolutely, John. See you. No, some great insights there, mate. Some great insights. Thanks very much for that. Obviously, you've covered quite a lot there. If anybody has got any questions after this, then they can fire them through to me, and I'll certainly pass them on to John. Just to give you a quick idea of what's coming up, and John, whilst I've got you, obviously Friday we're back at 11. We are going to be doing another webinar in relation to your people who are working remotely, who are working from home. John, can you give us a bit of an insight into what that's going to be, how that's going to look?
Yeah, we've been talking about how we reimagine our business in this webinar, Steve, haven't we? And what we can learn.
Yeah.
Where I'm going on Friday is how can you, as an employee, reinvent yourself? How can you work more effectively from home? What are the key steps that you should be considering on your radar when you talk about your personal effectiveness in the workplace? How can you manage your time more effectively? How can you skill up? How can you develop yourself? How can you learn more new relevant information that you can turn into a skill which will help improve performance and results?
Great stuff. No, that sounds fantastic. So that's
development of the team, Steve, Friday.
Yeah, exactly. So one maybe then for your team members. Obviously, we'll be advertising that. That'll be going out on social media, and I will be emailing you guys with details on that. So if you want to get them on board, then just pass that link on to them. On Tuesday of next week, we have the next installation from the ICG. Set of webinars. That's going to be around getting through COVID-19, coming out the other side. So a little bit of an extension of last week's. The panel will be completely different. So on the panel this coming week, we've got Kev Ellis from the London New Homes Network. We've got Dataloft, either Rory or Sandra will be joining us. Akaboom, Brian or Susanna, Sprift, I believe Matt is joining us, and Focal Agent, we're going to have Lee Wainwright. So we've got a fantastic panel of ICG members, but we've also got an incredible 3 fantastic estate agents joining us. Simon Gerard of Martin Gerard, who I know a lot of you will be familiar with. Asad Riaz from Location, and Pete Rollins. So a great panel for next Tuesday. That is, I believe, at 11 o'clock. We'll confirm that. And then the following Wednesday, the Wednesday after that, we, Agency Mentors, we're doing another webinar where we will be talking about the legal side of things that you may well be interested in. So conveyancing, how to get your deals through. We'll be joined by Nick Atwell and Lloyd Clark from Atwell's Solicitors. We're also going to be joined by Ian. Ian White's going to be there with me hosting the hour, should I say. And we've got Brian Mansell from Gazelle and Richard Megson from Assured Sale and Progression. So again, another great webinar to look forward to. All those will go out on social media. I will email you all the details, but thank you very much everybody for attending. Look forward to seeing you on Friday again with John, and hope you have a nice day. Stay safe, everybody. Cheers. All the best. Thank you, John. Cheers. Everyone's just disappearing, John. Tom Doyle, thank you both. Look forward to Friday's meeting. So you know Tom from Duncan Yardley. Yeah. Nice comment. Right. Nicola Carter, remove. Okay. Good stuff. Okay, mate. Let me just close Facebook down. Thank you very much for anybody on Facebook who's been watching.
Looks like you got one more attendee still, Steve. I don't know who that is. Doesn't show up, does it?
Nah, they're not there, mate.
No.
They're not there. So, John, thanks for that, buddy. I will see you on Friday. I just need to suss out, obviously, that Q&A, why I can't unmute. It may well have been the fact that Neil wasn't actually there. He might have popped off to do something. Certainly the Q&A.
How many did you have, Steve?
We started off with just over 30, mate, and hovered around 28, 29, and then there was about, at one stage, there was about 7 or 8 on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, decent, mate, decent. Not you know, we had 60 registrations, but you always know that that's going to be, you're going to get roughly half of that. So, yeah, so all good, mate. So I've got that recorded. Do you want the recording of that? You're not bothered?
No,
not need it, do you? No. It'll go out on social media anyway, mate.
Content okay?
Yeah, fine, mate. Absolutely fine. Yeah. So, I think it all went well. So yeah, all good, buddy. Look forward to Friday.
Anything I need to change or do differently?
I don't think so. No, I don't. No, I mean, at the end of the day, you know what you do. You've been doing it for bloody years. Who am I to tell you what to do anything differently?
Okay, mate.
All right, buddy.
Cheers, pal.
See you, mate. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
No worries.